So when you went to vet school, that was right around the World War II.
Well, I tell you what happened. I graduated from high school in 1945, and then I went in the Navy for 2 years. And when I got out of the Navy, I promised my dad I'd come home and run the farm. Meanwhile, while I was gone, he got married again. My mother died in childbirth with the 12th child years before, and he had remarried, and so I was out there alone on the farm because all the rest of the kids, the younger ones were there, but they weren't much help, and they'd gone to town. Mostly would live with my dad, but so I lived alone and farmed for a year. Thrash and run, did mostly horse work, had one tractor that we used, but most of the equipment was still for horses. And so I did horse farming and cattle, and at the end of a year I decided, well, about halfway through, I decided this is kind of not too good. So I quit at the end of the year, and in the services were segregated, and the blacks on the ship told me what segregation is like, and I couldn't believe it. So after quitting farming, I hitchhiked to New Orleans and got a job in a gas station to study segregation, to see what segregation, if this was true, what was happening. It was 10 times worse than what happened. I went to the black churches and the white churches, and I swear the white churches, I think, thought we should go back to slavery. It was that bad, and some of the experiences I had, I went back and sat with a black man on a bus and got literally thrown off the bus physically by the bus driver. He was bigger than me, so he could do it. And then after 9 months down there, I came back and went to the university. So I started in 1949.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
you can throw all that out, but that's my background on it.
That's an interesting part of your history, because there's not too many white people that would stick their neck out like you did.
I went back, and you would throw all this out, but I started college, and our AGR of Gamma invited me to come down to pledge. Now, I knew they didn't let blacks in.
I'm sorry, what did you say? Who invited you down to pledge?
Alpha Gamma Rho for fraternity.
Oh, okay.
On the ag campus there.
Okay.
I'm sure they're still there. Well, they invited me down to pledge, and I knew they didn't let blacks in there, but I went down to make a point in a way. And so I ate their lunch, and they took me up to a room to talk to me, and I said, well, can a black join? No. And so I'm real dark, I guess, but I said, then an Indian can't join either. So they assumed I was Indian. It took them 2 hours after talking to the national office and stuff to see if an Indian could join. So I decided that, I said, if it takes you long to decide anything, I'm out of here. I was going to be out there anyway, but because they didn't let blacks in. But I left. But then they passed the word that I was Indian, and I was very dark, coming from New Orleans, of course. And then it became a dilemma for me, because if I started denying my race, that wasn't good. Denying, and so I decided to become an Indian. So I became a Sioux. When people asked me what Indian I was, so I went through college being part Sioux.
But you're not really any Sioux Indian?
No.
Okay.
But it was a dilemma for me. But the experiences I had were something, because for instance, the people particularly up north, when they knew I was Indian, they go to the library and just sit at a table. A lot of them would move. It was restaurant, I mean, the cafeteria, same way. And some of the people, even one of them in vet school, didn't like Indians. He was had to be my lab partner. He thought I was the stupidest Indian he ever met. But that was true. I wasn't too bright. But I eventually, my wife, when I met her, I didn't tell her, but I was going with a girl there from up north, and her brother came down to college, and the first thing he came and told him that he didn't want an old buck hanging around his sister, you know. And to begin with, I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was funny. But after a few years, it really did start to bother me that what happened to Indians. Mm-hmm. But that's my story.
So you've been very progressive your whole life, it sounds like.
Yes, I'd say it's progressive thinking. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.